The clinking of glasses and soft laughter filled the grand hotel ballroom. Our son, Daniel, had just married the love of his life, and the joy in the air was almost tangible. I sat beside my husband of 32 years, Richard, feeling proud. We had raised two wonderful children and built a life full of memories. That illusion shattered with 6 words. "This is the end for us, Margaret." At first, I thought he was joking, a poorly timed attempt at humor. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw nothing playful there. His tone was calm, deliberate, practiced. And before I could even ask, he added, "I've met someone new." Every sound in the room vanished, as if the entire world had inhaled and forgotten how to breathe. Forks stopped mid-air, the music faded, and every guest turned toward our table. Even the newlyweds froze, their smiles fading into shock. Sitting directly across from us was his secretary, Elaine, a woman I'd welcomed into our home countless times. She had helped me organize holiday parties and even offered gardening advice. Now, she wore a crimson dress and a faint smile that told me everything I needed to know. For a long moment, I couldn't move. 32 years of shared birthdays, hospital visits, anniversaries, all flashing before my eyes like an old film reel. Everyone was waiting for me to break down, to scream, to throw a drink. But instead, I did something no one expected. I smiled. "Thank you for the honesty, Richard," I said softly, reaching into my purse. I pulled out a white envelope and set it neatly beside his plate. "You might want to read this later." He frowned, confused by my calmness. "What is this?" "Just something you'll need soon," I replied, straightening my blue dress. Then I turned to Daniel, who sat pale and speechless. "Sweetheart, this is still your day. Don't let anyone ruin it for you." I kissed his cheek, stood up, and faced the sea of stunned faces. "Everyone, please, enjoy your evening," I said with a polite smile. "The food is too good to waste on gossip." Then I walked away, heels clicking against the marble floor through the silence and stairs. As the ballroom doors closed behind me, my heart began to race, because that envelope wasn't just paper. It was the first move in a plan I had been crafting for 6 long months. He thought he was ending our marriage tonight. What he didn't know was I'd already ended it on my own terms. As the hotel doors closed behind me, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding for months. The cold air of the hallway felt sharp, almost cleansing. For the first time in years, I wasn't the wife who waited, worried, or wondered. I was in control. Richard followed me seconds later, calling my name like I was the one who'd done something wrong. "Margaret, what did you do?" he shouted, his face red and desperate. I didn't answer. I just kept walking toward the elevator. That envelope in his hand held the beginning of something I had carefully designed, a plan that had started long before this disastrous dinner. See, I wasn't blindsided. Not this time. It began half a year earlier when our joint savings account started shrinking mysteriously. Small amounts at first, a few $100s here, 1,000 there. I assumed it was household spending until I noticed patterns. Weekend withdrawals, transfers to an unfamiliar account, charges from restaurants in another town. When I asked Richard about it, he smiled like always and said, "Business dinner, sweetheart, you know how it is." But I did know. And I also knew he hadn't had real business dinners in over a year. So I started watching. When I reached home that night, the silence felt almost too peaceful. The same house that had once echoed with laughter and love now stood like a museum, still, decorated with memories of a life that no longer existed. I took off my shoes, hung my shawl neatly on the hook, and poured myself a cup of chamomile tea. I didn't shake, I didn't cry, I just sat there, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the wall clock. Upstairs, Behind Richard's winter coats, I found exactly what I expected: 2 suitcases already packed. He had planned to leave the next morning, probably after pretending to take a walk or pick up breakfast. That was when I finally smiled. I opened my laptop, pulled up the documents my lawyer had sent me, and looked over the final version of the divorce papers. Everything was in place: the accounts, the assets, the clause about infidelity. Every proof of his deceit was neatly filed. When my phone buzzed, I knew who it was without looking. "Richard, you've gone too far. I need to know what was in that envelope." Me, "You'll find out soon enough." An hour later, headlights flashed through the living room window. His car. The door burst open and he stormed inside, waving the crushed envelope like it was evidence of a crime. "What is this, Margaret? Divorce papers? On our son's wedding day?" I took a calm sip of my tea. "Well, it matched your timing perfectly. You ended our marriage in public. I just made it legal." His face twisted. "You had no right to—" "I had every right, just like you had the right to spend our savings on your secretary." The color drained from his face. For the first time, he looked uncertain, small even. "That agreement we signed years ago? The one you made me sign to protect your money after your first marriage? Section 14 still stands. The cheating clause." He blinked. "That expired." I smiled. "No, dear, it never did. I double-checked. You should have read the fine print." He dropped onto the couch like the air had been punched out of him. The man who once held all the power in this house suddenly looked like a guest, unwanted and out of place. He tried one more time to sound confident. "You can't do this to me." "Oh, Richard," I said quietly, standing to leave. "You already did this to yourself." But that was only the beginning. Because when love ends in betrayal, justice demands more than signatures. It demands closure. It was just past midnight when the house grew still again. I thought the chaos had ended, but I was wrong. The next afternoon, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages poured in from relatives who had been at the wedding, each one asking if the rumors were true. My sister wanted details, my son wanted answers, and even our neighbors suddenly remembered my number. By evening, a familiar voice came through the door instead of the phone. "Mom." It was Daniel, still in his wedding tuxedo, eyes swollen and tired. He had left his own reception early. "Oh, sweetheart," I said, wrapping him in a hug. He held on tightly, the way he used to when he was little. "I'm so sorry you had to witness that." He pulled back, searching my face. "I can't believe Dad did that to you, to us. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I didn't want to ruin your big day," I said softly. "You deserved at least one memory untouched by his choices." Before I could say more, there was a sharp knock on the door. Daniel tensed. I didn't have to guess who it was. Richard stood on the porch, disheveled, angry, and defeated. And beside him, clinging to her purse like a shield, was Elaine. I opened the door slowly. "What do you want?" "This nonsense has gone far enough," Richard barked. "You're ruining my reputation. Unfreeze the accounts and we'll talk this out like adults." Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady but shaking with rage. "Adults? You humiliated Mom at my wedding dinner. You don't get to talk about being an adult." Elaine tried to step in, her voice trembling. "Margaret, I didn't mean for it to happen this way. He told me—" I held up a hand. "You don't need to explain. I already know everything." Then I turned to Richard. "You wanted honesty in front of everyone, remember? Let's finish what you started." Daniel's jaw clenched. "You were stealing from our family, weren't you, Dad? Mom told me everything." "I was going to pay it back," Richard snapped. "Save it," I said quietly. "The court will see the transfers. The evidence is already filed." Elaine's eyes widened. "Court?
Yes, I replied calmly. And by the way, you might want to ask him how much he told you about the other bank account, the one you're not part of. Her face turned pale. She stepped back. You lied to me too? The silence that followed was heavy. The truth had finally filled the room, and there was nowhere for him to hide. As they walked out, I didn't feel anger anymore, just relief. But I didn't know yet. The best part of my story was still to come.
The house was silent again, but it wasn't the same silence that used to haunt me. This one felt peaceful and earned. For days after the confrontation, I avoided phone calls, interviews, and gossip. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. All I wanted was space to breathe and to remember who I was before I became Richard's wife. 3 days later, the court hearing took place in a small, quiet courtroom. The judge, a stern woman with tired eyes, flipped through our marriage agreement like a seasoned reader skimming a predictable novel. "Mr. Wilson," she said sharply, "you insisted on this agreement, did you not?" Richard shifted in his seat, face pale. "Yes, but that was decades ago." "Then I'm sure you remember Section 14, she interrupted. "The faithfulness clause remains valid for the duration of the marriage. You broke it. Therefore, the property division will favor your spouse." Her gavel came down like thunder. Richard stared blankly as the words sunk in. He'd lose the house, the joint savings, and the retirement fund he once bragged about. The same document he used to protect himself had destroyed him. As I walked out of that courtroom, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. A week later, I stood in front of a small shop downtown, the one I'd passed 1,000 times and always told myself, maybe someday. That someday had finally arrived. The faded for lease sign came down, and the door opened to a world of flour, sugar, and second chances. I named it Sweet Restarts Bakery. The smell of fresh bread and vanilla filled the air on opening day. Old friends, neighbors, and even a few strangers came to support me. My son Daniel brought flowers, bright yellow tulips, the same kind his father used to buy me long ago. "I'm proud of you, Mom," he said, hugging me tightly. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like someone's wife or someone's mistake. I felt like me. A few months later, someone asked if I ever regretted what happened. I smiled, wiping flour from my hands. Regret? No. Sometimes life has to break you to set you free. The truth is, betrayal didn't destroy me. It rebuilt me. I had turned pain into peace, endings into beginnings, and silence into strength. Because in the end, revenge wasn't the real victory. Healing was. Final line, a rehook. So if life ever tears your world apart, remember this: sometimes losing everything is the only way to finally find yourself.